All heard the recording in progress? Yep. All right, excellent. Like I said, welcome. Welcome to week 3 of the Wellness Challenge. Great points. We got some mid results coming in. Ooh, there's some teams out there are really got the points coming in. So thank you very much. And if by chance there are some team captains listening right now, it's not too late if you want to send in your mid results still. And if you don't, you're not going to get punished by not sending them in. It's just a little bit nice to kind of see where everybody's sitting at. So I'll wait a couple more days, and then maybe the beginning of next week, I'll post that on our website so you can kind of see where your team is sitting. Also, a few more photos have come in this week, so thank you very much. Some creative photos. Nice to see who our competition is. And other than that, most of your reminders all come through your team captain. So I don't want to spend a lot of today talking. We have a very interesting presentation that's going to be coming on here in just a little bit. But before we do that, as you are probably all familiar with, see if I can get it to work. There she is. All right, hopefully you can see a screen that says the wellness pillars. And so I've been sharing and doing this the last couple of weeks. And what we do is you possibly have been filling it out. Maybe you haven't. Maybe you've been reading through before or during, whatever works for you. Uh-oh, I've lost my arrow. Let's see if I move you over here. I tell you, never gets easier. Here we go. Okay, so there are the 4 pillars, and we've already had presentations on physical and mental. Today is going to be on nutritional, which is taking care of your body by eating healthy foods to nurture and energize your body. And then as you go down, there are some questions that can kind of probe the thinking on this topic of nutrition. Put you over there. So a couple of questions I'll just read, and whether you want to think about these while Krista is doing a presentation today, maybe you'll get some ideas of things that you can work on, or like I said, always make just small improvements. We're not looking at drastic changes. We want lifestyle changes that can be lasting beyond the 4 weeks of the Wellness Challenge. So number 1 says, in what condition is my nutritional health? So kind of really thinking of yourself and what we put into our body, from drinks to food, snacks, and is it nutritionally healthy to our body? Am I mindful of the tastes, textures, and variety of foods when I am eating? Now, this kind of goes to that one point that I have been perhaps criticized or questioned on, is why do we turn off technology? Why are you giving points to have meals? Oh, sorry, I have to let some people in a waiting room here. I'll let them in and then I'll continue talking. So why is it that we give points for not having technology on? Well, the reason for that is because the more mindful we are of the food, the more we can listen to our body to see if we are full or maybe thirsty, or we really enjoy the food. Because it's very easy to eat mindlessly, especially if the TV's on or we're texting, Facebook. We just kind of keep popping the food in without thinking about it. So anyways, number 3, after eating, do I feel full, nourished, and energized? Number 4, do I drink enough water to quench my thirst and keep my body well hydrated? Krista may talk about this, but our brain sometimes gets those mixed up. We're actually thirsty, but we think we need to eat. Many of us are dehydrated throughout the day. Number 5, do I eat or drink for reasons other than hunger? We know about emotional eating. Well, habits, bored, stressed, emotional. Number 6, are there things I am doing that are negatively impacting my nutritional well-being? Examples: do I judge myself, compare myself to others, attach punishment to foods, follow restricted diets? And number 7, what are some positive activities that I can do to improve my nutrition? And hopefully after today's presentation, you may have a few of those ideas. So that's enough talking from Val. I'm going to stop sharing. And just going to do that. Perfect. So I'm going to introduce now, we have today with us is Krista Sawatsky. She's from Saskatchewan Health Authority, and she's going to be speaking to us on the nutritional pillar. She unfortunately has had an injury this week. Thank you so much, Krista, for coming when she is laid up with a really bad knee injury. So you won't see her today, but she is going to share her screen, and you will also be able to hear her presentation. At any point, if you have questions, you could pop those into the chat, or you can ask at the very end of the presentation if there's a little bit of time too. We try to be respectful of time and wrap up at 12:45. So Krista, thanks again for coming today. We look forward to your presentation. I'm going to turn it over to you, and enjoy, everyone.
Perfect. Thank you, Val, for such a lovely introduction and, of course, for coming, for inviting me to come and present today. I just want to check before I get started. Can you see my screen okay? Are you seeing the PowerPoint? I've got it up. Okay, perfect. So yes, as Val mentioned, I'm Krista Swatsky. I'm a registered dietitian, and I currently work as a public health nutritionist for the Saskatchewan Health Authority in Swift Current. And I know we have a short session, so I am going to jump in right away. Just a few things to cover. So as an SHA employee, I do support our vision, mission, values, and philosophy of care. So if you guys are interested in reading more about that, you can check them out on the SHA website. I also want to just take a minute and let you know I'm presenting today from Treaty 4 territory, which is the homeland of the Dakota, Lakota, and Métis. So I want to pay my respects to the original caretakers of this land and just say that I recognize that I know this history is important for our future and our efforts to close the gap in health outcomes between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. So today I'm going to briefly go through what makes up a healthy eating pattern and how kind of Canada's Food Guide fits into that. But then I'm going to use majority of the time to actually provide some budget-friendly tips and ways to reduce food waste to hopefully help you save some money while still allowing for nutritious foods. And I'm going to try and leave a couple minutes at the end for questions as well. So eating is a habit, and we can refine our habits, although I know that is sometimes easier than done. But making healthy food choices by regularly consuming vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and protein foods help you to develop a healthy eating pattern, which will improve your overall health. So all of the food and drink that you work together to kind of create this pattern, which again, can help you feel good, maintains your health, and of course, helps you to meet your nutritional needs. So vegetables and fruit contain really important nutrients like fiber, vitamins, and minerals. So for example, eating dark green vegetables every day like bok choy, arugula, and kale can help you get enough folate and calcium. While eating orange vegetables like carrots, sweet potatoes, red and orange peppers, even just eating them a few times a week can help you to get enough vitamin A. And eating a variety of vegetables and fruits may lower your risk of heart disease as well. So ideally, we want you to aim for about half of your plate at your meals to be vegetables and or fruit. And you will notice, because we're kind of halfway through the challenge, that you get points for doing that every day. Whole grain foods also contain vitamins, minerals, and fiber. And a whole grain is basically just, it includes the entire grain, which contains more nutrients like, B vitamins, magnesium, and fiber than a refined or a white grain, where all of that has kind of been removed. And we talk a lot about fiber because fiber is, it's important not only because it helps to regulate your bowels and can helps to keep you feeling full, but it can also help lower your risk of things like stroke, colon cancer, heart disease, and even type 2 diabetes. So whole grain foods include things like quinoa, whole barley, whole grain flour, bread, pasta, whole oats or oatmeal, and whole grain brown or wild rice as well. So you want to aim for about a quarter of your plate to be coming from whole grains. And even any movement towards replacing some of the processed or refined grains, is a step in the right direction. Protein foods provide you with also important nutrients like vitamins, minerals, and obviously protein. They include animal and plant-based sources, and they make up, kind of the last part of this healthy eating pattern. Plant-based protein foods do provide you with more fiber and less saturated fat than other types of protein foods, and this is actually quite beneficial for your heart health. Doesn't mean you have to become a vegetarian, but just incorporating more plant-based foods is really for your health. So plant proteins include things like nuts, seeds, beans, like black beans, brown beans, kidney beans, doesn't matter what kind of bean, lentils, peas, like chickpeas, tofu, soybeans, fortified soy beverages. So including plant-based protein foods more often can be challenging if you haven't ever done it before. It can sometimes be overwhelming for people. And this is kind of part of why you get points for doing it, is to try to encourage you to move in that direction a little bit. But even like I said, starting small by adding them into your existing meals or recipes can help to improve your health. So you don't have to replace things entirely. Like try simply adding nuts or seeds into your salads or your cereals or yogurt. Include extra beans in place of some or all of the meat when you're making a chili, or, try adding tofu into a stir fry, or, adding pureed chickpeas into muffins to get extra moisture, but also the extra benefits of adding the chickpeas. So really the options can be endless. So just start small, depending on where you're at. You really don't need to eat a large amount of protein foods to meet your nutritional needs, but you do need to have protein foods every day. So you want to aim for about a quarter of your plate to come from protein foods as a whole. So I want to just take a minute to talk about water. There are so many drink choices available out there, and many choices have a lot of calories, sodium, sugars, saturated fat. So ideally, you want to make water your drink of choice instead. Drinking water it's very important for your health. It's a great way to quench your thirst, and it's an awesome way to stay hydrated without having added calories or added sugars. And our bodies actually lose water. So we lose in a variety of ways, but like when we're sweating. So, if you've increased your activity because, the weather is turning beautiful, or because, as part of the challenge, you're making an effort to be a little bit more active, we're going to lose it, when we sweat. Or if it was summer, when it was hot out, but we're not quite there yet. We also lose water when we're breathing. And, of course, when we're getting rid of waste. So we need to replace what is lost. And every person actually needs a different amount of water every day. There's no one size fits all. However, in the challenge, we have encouraged you to aim for about that 6 cups of water each day to help keep you hydrated and replace the water that you may be losing, just as a starting point. Because most of us, like kind of Val mentioned at the beginning when she was going through the questions, many people don't drink enough water. So, any kind of conscious effort to increase your water intake is a step in the right direction. And, sometimes too, we are thinking that we're hungry, we're feeling hungry when it's our body's way of signaling us that we are in fact thirsty. So, kind of having a refillable water bottle, or, making a habit to, I don't know, depending on where you are, if you're at home, work, just kind of setting an alarm on your phone, something as simple as that, as a reminder to, drink water more frequently, or some people like to have a goal, like I'm going to drink, this, 3 cups by noon, 3 cups by, supper time, and then I'm going to have one before bed. Anything that kind of works best for you is a good way to get in a little bit more water. Okay. So I wanted to spend some time, a good portion, kind of going over this next concept. So I know with the rising cost of groceries, I'm hearing a lot of how many people feel that making healthy choices is just too expensive. And I recognize that groceries are just crazy right now. And so I wanted to share some ideas that might help reduce cost or save you money while still allowing you to include nutritious foods in your diet. So the first thing is to make a plan. So you've probably heard this before, but planning is really important. Decide what meals you're going to make for lunch and dinner, even if all you do is just a few days or even just a few meals each week. Start there. You don't have to plan out, all of your meals for 7 days if you've never, kind of planned ahead before. Think about what your week looks like. How much time, do you have to cook this week? And who's going to be home on that day to eat the meals? On your busy days, you might need to adjust your plan or choose meals that are quicker and simpler to prepare. Maybe a meal that can simply go in the crock pot while you're away, so that by the time you get home, it's ready to go. Basically, when you have a plan, you're less likely to buy fast food or convenience meals, which is not only going to save you money, but it's also going to reduce your intake of those foods that may be less nutritious. To further help saving with money, try, planning your meals around foods that are on sale is a big thing. And my mom would be so proud to hear me say this. So, looking at the flyers and coupons that are available in your grocery store really can actually make a difference. So, when you're doing that, just make sure that you're buying and planning for foods that you're actually going to use and eat. Sometimes I don't know if you've ever done this, but you look and you're like, oh, that's on sale. And it wasn't really in your plan to purchase. And then if you end up purchasing it and then you don't use it, then, it goes to waste. And not only have you wasted food, but you've wasted money. So make sure that what you're looking and planning for, you're actually going to use. Another thing that can make a big difference is planning to include some of those plant-based meals every week. So whether it's adding in things like legumes, beans, lentils, dried peas, or tofu, whichever, I talked about some of the health benefits of them having higher fiber and less fat, but they're also like a really great inexpensive protein option. So it gives you that ability to keep, protein at your meals, but less expensive than, say, some of the meats that are out there right now. You can also use things like canned fish, like say, for example, tuna and salmon. They, look for low sodium if you can, or rinse it to try to get rid of some of that extra salt. But these are, a cheaper way to get protein and even some of those omega-3 fats, and they're going to last longer than a fresh variety. Frozen fish as well is an excellent choice. It's going to be a little bit cheaper than a fresh variety. Try adding grains more often. So grains like brown rice, pasta, barley, couscous, they're typically not very expensive. And the benefit is that they can be used in a lot of recipes in a lot of different ways. So, you can try adding them to soups or stews or salad or, wherever you like them, or even just eating them on their own. Another big thing that can help is to look for seasonal recipes and ingredients. So vegetables and fruit are much less expensive when they're in season. However, given where we live, and the fact that we have winter for more months than I'm sure most of us would enjoy, fresh is often not in season here. So, look for frozen. Frozen is an excellent option. You can look for canned as well. Look for the canned versions that are, don't have any extra sodium or sauces or extra sugar added to them, because these are just as nutritious, but they're typically much less expensive than fresh, and they will last longer as well. You also want to, if you're looking at recipes, trying to get new ideas, try to avoid recipes that need a special ingredient. So it might not be worth basically the money to buy an ingredient if you're only going to use it once, or if that ingredient is going to spoil before you're likely to use it again. So instead, leave that ingredient out, or try the recipe with a substitution that maybe an ingredient that you already have at home. And I find it really helpful. You can search online for substitutions for certain ingredients. There's, a wonderful, just do a quick search, like what can I use in place of this? And typically you can find something that you maybe already have in your house, or an ingredient that you would use more regularly. So you're not, purchasing that one special ingredient. Another thing that can really be helpful is to make extra or batch cook when it's possible. So say, for example, ground beef is on sale. Maybe you're going to buy some ground beef and you're going to make 2 batches of lasagna or chili or whatever it is that you're going to make with it. Serve one that day and have leftovers that week. And then you can freeze the other one in maybe meal-sized portions so that you've got some of those, good nutritious meals for later on those days where you don't have time to cook or you don't feel like cooking. You just pull it out of the freezer and pop it in the oven. One thing that I really like to do is I double some of my favorite, what I refer to as cheaper ingredient recipes. And then I portion out kind of my lunches for the rest of the week. So I really like to do this for, like, I call them power bowls. They've got like quinoa and beans and any kind of vegetable you really like in there. And, most of those ingredients are relatively cheap, and they give you like a really good, nutritious, whether it's supper or lunch, however you want to do it. So try, doubling your recipe and planning for that. Planning for leftovers is, just like I mentioned with the Power Bowl, can actually make a difference too. So for example, say you make a roast chicken or whatever on, Sunday with rice and vegetables. You're having that chicken on Sunday, then maybe you're going to plan to have chicken salad or a chicken sandwich for your lunch on Monday, or, a chicken stir fry for Monday supper as a way to use those leftovers. And then on Tuesday, you can maybe plan to use the chicken bones to make a soup. And then you can add in any leftover vegetables and rice that you have, or any, extra vegetables that you have in your fridge that you want to throw in. Basically, I know our lives are really busy, and planning always sounds so like unexciting, but planning ahead can really help save you time later in the week, as well as money. And once you kind of have your plan in place, you can make your grocery list from your plan and make sure to check like at home to for any items that you already have on hand so that you're not purchasing foods that you don't need. And then once you have your list, it's really important to stick to it when you're at the store. And I find one of the best ways to stick to your list is try and avoid grocery shopping when you are hungry. This can lead to impulse purchases, which are often less nutritious and more expensive. So, like, let's be honest, we have all been in that situation where we are in the grocery store and we're starving. And usually it's not extra broccoli that ends up in our cart in those situations. So, just a little tip there. Try to not go when you're starving. Okay. Well, sorry here, I gotta just get this to, there we go. Okay. Another huge way to help cut costs to your grocery bill is to reduce food waste. So one of the biggest contributors to cost is actually food waste. So fresh vegetables and fruit and leftovers are the three top wasted food categories. And actually, the average Canadian household wastes about 4.5 meals every single week, which can add up to over $1,000 per year. I don't know about you, but I could do a lot with $1,000. Sometimes I think we don't realize how much we're throwing out. And, basically, wasted food, it ends up being wasted money. So how do we do this? How do we reduce our waste? Well, the first thing is to plan your meals. So I kind of already just went over that on the previous slide, but I really can't emphasize that enough, that planning can help you in huge ways with your cost. So you maybe try implementing some of those tips that I talked about on the previous slide. The other thing I wanted to spend some time talking about is food storage. So many people don't know, or they have an idea, but they don't know exactly that fruits and vegetables need to be stored differently. There are some that produce a gas called ethylene that can actually cause spoilage to other vegetables. So onions is one of them, for example. And you really need to be storing your fruit and vegetables separate. So in separate crispers in the fridge, that's going to help keep them fresh for longer. When you come home, unless you're wanting to eat that, fruit or vegetable right away, because fruit ripens much faster on the counter than it does in the fridge. If you're not planning to eat it right away, put it in the fridge, that way it's going to keep it fresher for longer. Some fruit requires, containers with vents. Some require without vents. And, that's typically, we're fortunate that when we purchase ours, most of the things that require vents, like say, for example, berries, like that's why they're in those little trays with all those little vents. They need that more than the fruit that doesn't come in those containers. So if you want it to ripen fast, leave it on the counter. So if you're going to consume it, if not, put it in the fridge. And some vegetables are actually best kept in a cold, dark place instead of in the fridge. So a couple examples I wanted to give you, and Val's going to send out some stuff that I gave her that has a lot of these details. So don't feel like you have to capture it all. If you are, writing any of this down or excited about it. But so for example, asparagus. Asparagus is one, it's really expensive right now. So if you have happened to purchase it, storing it upright in a cold glass of water will help keep it fresh for longer. And so it's super easy to do, or it doesn't have to be a glass, it can be a container or anything. You don't have to cover it entirely, just fill it maybe about halfway up, and that'll keep it fresh. I don't know if you've ever, opened up your fridge and go to take out your celery or your carrots and it's wilted, not a problem. Cut the bottom off. Carrots you don't have to cut, but celery, just cut the bottom off just a little bit and stick it in water. Usually in about a day or so, they're going to have crisped right back up and they're good and they'll have the same crispiness as when you purchase them. Unless they're like rotten, then that's a different situation. But if they're just kind of, where your celery, you could bend it and it doesn't break and snap, put it in water and it'll crisp it right up. Onions, I mentioned, are one of those vegetables that produce that gas. So you want to not store your onions where your other vegetables are. Like, don't put your onions in the drawer with your peppers and your cucumber and your lettuce, because it releases that gas and it can actually cause those other vegetables to spoil faster. And so then you're less likely to be able to use up those ingredients. And I don't know about you, but if you've seen the price of romaine lettuce lately at like $9 for a bag, I don't really want my romaine lettuce having to go in the bin instead of getting to use it. So something simple like storing your onions in a separate area, or if you have a cold room or anything like that, can help so that there's not spoilage caused by that. Corn actually is best stored in the husks. It's not really corn season, so that's maybe not as applicable right now. The other one I wanted to just mention was leafy greens. Again, lettuce can be expensive, especially right now in the winter. If you store your leafy greens, wrap it in a dish towel, or even I find putting a paper towel inside either a sealed bag or sealed container and then putting it in the crisper. That towel and paper towel absorbs the moisture and will help prevent, when your lettuce kind of gets that slimy, that's from the moisture collecting in there. So, you can change out that paper towel, check it every once in a while. If the paper towel is really damp, switch it out and put a new piece in there. It'll keep your lettuce fresh for much longer. Another thing that can help to reduce food waste is making sure to make a habit of checking your pantry, fridge, and freezer for leftover, um, you know, anything really for foods or leftovers that are about to go bad, so that you use them up first and get in the habit of doing this when you're planning for your meals, because then you know the ingredients you have on hand and then you can include that in your plan. So for example, don't let that bag of carrots or celery go to waste if you see they're kind of on the verge of needing to be used. Maybe you plan to make a big pot of soup or chili or stew or whatever it is, and then you can enjoy that fresh the day you make it, and then freeze the leftovers again for those days when you need something quick, but is still easy and nutritious. If you have fruit or vegetables that are going to spoil before you can eat them, consider freezing them to use at a later time. Frozen fruit makes excellent additions to like lots of items, but like breakfast items like muffins, oatmeal, overnight oats, smoothies, and frozen veggies can be added to stir fries, soups, or stews. You just throw them in, and it's a fantastic way to prevent your fresh vegetables from going bad. Another good habit to get into is when you put your leftovers in the fridge, like I talked about previously, make sure you have a plan for how you're going to use them or when you're going to eat them. Or at a minimum, even just marking them, like say with a sticky note or something, so that your other family members know that these need to be eaten first before you're going to, make something new or look for a different item. And if you do have fruit or vegetables that expire or spoil and you just can't salvage them to be able to use, you could start considering to compost at home. So composting won't directly reduce your food waste, but it is a way to benefit your home garden if you are a gardener, and then that can help reduce what ends up in our landfills as well. So I am just aware of time here. So I know I went through a lot of information really quickly, but I just wanted to say, don't forget to refer to the nutrition sheets that you received from your captains that Val sent out at the very beginning of the challenge. So a lot of that, portions in the food categories like fruits, grains, vegetables, proteins, as well as additional tips. That's a lot of that information is on there. And then I have emailed Val a budget-friendly recipe booklet, which has lots of great recipes in it that are very budget-friendly, and as well as some excellent tips and storage ideas on, ways to help you reduce food waste. So I didn't leave much time for questions. I apologize, but we technically, I think, have a minute. So thank you.
Fantastic. Some very great information there. Thank you, Krista. Anyone right now have any quick questions? I look forward to looking at these documents that I will send out here this afternoon. Sounds like there's some great ideas in there.
Yes, and some of them are nice little posters. You can just even post on your fridge as a reminder for ways to store things.
Cool. One comment I was going to make about the whole grain is, they do some incredible marketing with all different kinds of food, but that whole wheat has been around for a long time to catch your eye that it's very healthy for whole wheat. But if you look at the ingredients, it's often, there's no whole grain in there. So a couple years ago, I learned to do that, is to look at the back, and if it says whole grain with, I think they usually say with entire grain or the germ. Is that correct, Krista? What is it that we're looking for on the ingredients?
Yes, Val, that's a great question. So yeah, when you're looking on a nutrition label under the ingredients, if it says whole grain, that means it's used the entire grain. Usually nowadays with the nutrition labeling changes, that's what it will say if it is a whole grain. If it says whole wheat, that is not a whole grain. So the whole grain includes all three parts of the grain. So it's got the outer layer, the inner layer, and then the middle and inner layer, like the germ, which has got all of the nutrients and everything. So you really want to be looking for that keyword that says whole grain. If it just says whole wheat or enriched wheat, that is not a whole grain. Whole wheat is better than enriched. because enriched is just a fancy way that they get to say it's white flour that they've added some B vitamins back in. So that's kind of the three things to look for. Is whole grain would be first, whole wheat would be second, and enriched would basically, enriched or just wheat means white flour, where everything has been removed except for kind of the starch.
All right. Well, again, thank you so very much, Krista, for your expert knowledge and information that you've shared with us today. You know, we eat every day and we think we know lots about nutrition, but there's still so much more that we don't. And we thank you for sharing that with us today. We look forward to the documents, which I will send out this afternoon. And good luck recovering here. I hope your knee recovers quickly and that you can get out and about. So first of all, a huge thank you to Krista. And then just another minute here to wrap up, everyone. A reminder again to remind your team that it does take us a little bit of time to download this video onto YouTube and then to get it on the website. But hopefully if my communications person can get her done, it'll be up later this afternoon or tonight. And we're going to pick a prize. So the way we've done this before is I'm going to grab somebody on the screen that will pick a number between 1 and 23, but you cannot pick number 19 or 20 because Schaefer Family and Team Nutters have both won, so they are not eligible to win. And the team prize today that I wanted to tell you about is a Swift Fit, and it is a I don't know how much, if it's got a value here. A 1 month unlimited classes at Swift Fit is one of the prizes. And along with that, it's called the Stick. Came from Central Avenue Physiotherapy. It's for rolling for your muscles, which can be very helpful, especially if you're exercising and getting a little stiff and sore. So thank you to all of our prize donors. And Claire, do you mind picking a number between 1 and 23, but you cannot have 19 or 20?
Okay, let's go for old Jean Beliveau's number 4.
Oh, wow. Okay. I may pass this because it happens to be my team. It's like the Community Crusaders, which is the city of Swift. So I'm going to let you pick another number, please, Claire.
Okay, number 9.
All right, who's number 9? Oh, there we go. Waldeck Warriors. This is the Waldeck school staff has joined our challenge this year. So I will let them know that they are the winners and they can decide how they want to disperse their prize amongst their team members. So good luck, everybody. We're kind of getting over the hump. We're close to the end. One thing I did want to mention, I'll put it in the email, is there will be a survey that's coming out in the email probably today or on Monday. And it's a survey. If you take that survey, which gives me very helpful feedback, you will get an extra 10 bonus points above and beyond of the 291. So if you hit 291, you possibly could get 301 if you did everything perfectly and filled out your survey. That will be for next week's points though, okay? It really is helpful. Every year I go through those and I make changes according to feedback that I get. So I do appreciate it. Anyways, we're a few minutes past, so I'm going to say have a great afternoon. Thank you very much for everyone who's here today at lunch and all those who will be watching later. And again, thank you to our presenters, Krista today and Angela and Sarah from last week. So we look forward to next week. Thank you and have a great day. Good luck, everyone. Oh, that's cool. Jackie was on here for the Warriors, so congratulations.